to take 3 conscious healing breaths. We are alerting our consciousness that we are giving ourselves over now to a time of resting and renewal, and meditation and contemplation, and then silence. This song speaks of the silence. And just as the story tells us, the angels came to announce the birth of this beloved child and to also announce the birth of a consciousness of love that it seems had not been seen in quite this way before in the world. I wonder if you know that when you took birth, the angels were singing for you as well. And I wonder if all of us can know that the angels are still singing for us. This morning, as we take a few moments of silence, we reflect on the beautiful beings that gather around us in the seen and in the unseen, to encourage us, to love us, to support and embrace us in peace, peace, peace. And this morning, can we see ourselves called into the world to be the presence of love, the presence of this awakened consciousness, the presence of Christ in the world, just as Jesus called out to any who had eyes to see and ears to hear. To be the presence of this consciousness in the world. So take a few moments of silence. Let our hearts and minds open and ponder this idea that we are called to be the Christ presence in the world. As we feel ourselves as the presence of love, the presence of peace, the presence of forgiveness and of compassion, of wisdom and understanding, of joy and peace. We radiate that out into our communities, our families, our world. We let ourselves feel our own wholeness, and we see the wholeness of all the beloveds that we hold in our hearts. We see their wholeness, their light. We see our beloveds surrounded by love, feeling and knowing themselves as the presence of love, those who are living in bodies and those who are now living without physical form. We bless our world, our entire human family, all nations and cultures, small villages, huge cities. We bless our brothers and sisters gathering in the streets, gathering in mosques and synagogues and churches and cathedrals, drum circles, dance circles, those hiking through the mountains alone and those living on the streets alone. We bless our human family and all life on this beautiful, beautiful home we call planet Earth. May all beings know peace. May all beings know kindness. May all beings know love. May all beings know joy. We are the light of the world. And we see that light in the eyes and the hearts of all of our brothers and sisters around this globe. And we say, so it is, and so we let it be. Namaste. Good morning. I invite you to turn to somebody right next to you and say, the angels are still singing for you.
The angels are still singing for you. And you. And you. And you. And you. And Kevin, you're singing really loud for you.
And they're singing for you.
So the angels sing to us in a lot of different ways. Some of us can hear the angels literally singing. At Friday night's drum circle, the drums were so in sync and together. I heard singing. And I'm sure it was not the bar. I heard the voices singing. We were surrounded by heavenly presence. And the angels sing to us. Sometimes some of us can hear our names whispered as we awaken, right at that precious moment when we're just about ready to wake up and we hear our names whispered. This morning I went into the bedroom. I said, honey, are you awake? And he said, I'm preparing to be awake. And isn't that what we're doing? Mm-hmm. Everything we do in our lives, we are preparing to be more awake, more alive, more filled with joy, more present to who and what we are, more present to be the Christ, the awakened consciousness in the world. Everything we do, we're in preparation, we're in training. I often call it mastership training. It goes way beyond what we might have learned in grade school, high school, college. It is the true university. So, here we are. We're talking this month about mysticism, and we're talking about the birth of the Christ within each one of us. And we celebrate the birth of the one we know as Jesus because he brought a pattern to us. He brought kind of a formula. He brought a kind of a way of being that kind of rocked the world. It rocked his world for sure. He stepped into a traditional mindset, a mindset that said eye for an eye. And he stepped into that mindset and he said, there's another way of being that will perhaps bring more peace into the world. And it's a way of being called forgiveness, love, acceptance. It's a way of being that includes everyone, and It has something to do with knowing yourself as the beloved and knowing that the divine presence lives within you, as you, through you, and that you too can be this way of being in the world that people will take note of. They'll want to be in the energy of love and peace and acceptance. Carl Jung said, "It is to the mystics that we owe what is best in humanity, and only the mystic brings what is creative to religion itself." And that's what we're going to be looking at more of in 2015. The mystics in our world, some of them are living right now, and some of them lived throughout the centuries, but they had this message that said that the wisdom and the insights and the truth as you need to know it, it's all resting within you. It's all within your heart, within your mind. And it's lovely to read the scriptures, and it's lovely to be with one another, to remember, to explore these ideas. But sooner or later, you're going to need to go to your own Holy of Holies place. A place where the priest is not telling you, the minister is not telling you, the rabbi is not telling you, but your own heart of wisdom tells you the truth that you need to know. Charles Fillmore said the mystic is one who intimately experiences God. Charles Fillmore was keen on spending time in the silence so that we could have intimate awareness and experience with the one presence. And I know none of you fall into this category, but there are people in the world who want the priest or the minister or the rabbi to tell them that they're okay and to tell them what to believe. If you're sitting in a unity church, you are open to this idea of exploring that all you need to know is within you. But it takes some work sometimes to do the deep listening. So, we have been shifting it up a little bit here to bring forth a little bit of change here at this time of year. We don't have a traditional Advent wreath because we're working now with the spiral. And so the first Sunday, we lit this candle for hope. And you see, the story of Jesus is also the story of whom? Us. So the story of Jesus, the journey of the mystic, it's the story of you also, your own Christ presence and light being born into the world. So when Jesus was born into the world, there was a hope, there was a yearning, there was an idea that there was going to be a saving presence coming into the world. They were ready to look for, to watch for this saving presence. There was a hope. And you know, hope turns into yearning. If you ever wonder what your calling is, look what the world is most yearning for, because your calling will match that. The hope in the world, it turns into a yearning, and then eventually it turns into a knowing. It's a knowing. So we light that first candle for hope. And all of us have a hope in our hearts that is turning into yearnings for some of us and turning into knowing for some of us of what our calling in the world is. And then, the second Sunday, we lit the next candle on the spiral for guidance. Guidance in the birth of this awakened consciousness within us. And the good news is when we determine that we want to follow the guidance to let this consciousness be birthed through us, we receive help from heaven and earth, from seen and unseen. And it's constant. And some of it we see. We see some of a huge reservoir of help from on high. We see some of it. if we're watching our dreams, if we're watching the serendipity that happens in our life, the synchronicities, we're listening for conversations, we hear a word, we hear a story, we read something in a book, say, oh my gosh, I was just wondering about this, I was just thinking about this. We're surrounded with help from heaven and earth to follow our guidance, to birth the fullness of who we are into the world. And if you think you don't have support around you, just hang on. Just ponder that idea and let yourself be open and ready. Let yourself just trust this idea that we're each one of us surrounded by help from heaven and earth. Then, the third Sunday, we lit this candle back here for faith. We received the guidance. That's really wonderful. It's wonderful to receive guidance, isn't it? But then, we're called to follow the guidance. That's where some of us gets a little tricky. Yeah, back in 1974, I got this guidance.
Yeah.
And, well, I haven't done that yet. But I'm preparing to wake up. So the faith to follow the guidance, because we know, if we've been reading into the stories of the mystics, we know that the guidance often will take us into desert places. Or as we said last week, desert places. But you see, I've corrected the spelling. Some of us now want to include that in admin every year. It takes us to the desert places. So the faith to follow the guidance. It's wonderful to get guidance. But the faith to follow the guidance. So will take us into the desert, to the wild places, into the unexplored, uncharted territories, the unknown. Oh my goodness. So the fourth Sunday of Advent, that's today. We're going to light the candle for love. We're going to need love to carry us through some of those places that the calling takes us into. The journey of the mystic isn't always about having fun. The journey of the mystic is to take us deeper. So sometimes it takes us to the desert, and how many of us in that desert place have felt deserted? Father, why have you forsaken me? Am I all alone here? Does anybody know I'm here? There was this great cartoon years ago, Hobbs the cat, and he was in outer space surrounded by stars, and he was in a parachute. And he was, oh, this is beautiful, this is wonderful, this is glorious. But I wonder if does anyone know I'm here? For example, does God know I'm here? So in the desert places, and one of the keystones of being in the desert is we sometimes feel alone, abandoned. And in the wild places, we have questions like, have I lost my mind? Who do I think I am? What am I thinking? Has anybody ever said anything like this? What was I thinking? And in the unknown, again, we feel alone. This is an unknown place. I'm not sure I'll know anybody when I get there. I'm not sure what the dress code is in the unknown. And the uncharted territories. Nobody gives us a map. Actually, we do have a map. But in that place, we don't know we have a map. Jesus was a map of sorts. When he said, follow me, he didn't mean just follow him as the man, Jesus. He meant follow the way of being that can create peace in the world. And so what have we adorable human beings done? We've built huge cathedrals, given a lot of lip service to it, but we haven't yet done it fully. Oops. But here's the other great thing about love that carries us to these places. In the desert, we go into what we call deep listening. Years ago, I was with my sister and her former husband, and we were at Lake Powell in Utah. And I was on a houseboat, and they were in the RV up on land. So I was in the houseboat in the water all by myself, and it was wonderful. I was reveling in the bliss and the joy. It was quiet. Oh, it was so quiet. The stars hanging in the sky. And I thought, I wonder if I need to yell for help if they can hear me. Are there any other boats around with any people on them, just in case? What if I fall off the boat and forget how to swim? And I'm looking up at this star in the sky. It had lots of blackness around it, but this star that was just radiating. And I heard this kind of inner message that said, so, and, what? So, well, what if somebody comes on the back of this boat and tries to rob me? And, so, what? It's a Yiddish start, what? Well, what if David back in Santa Barbara, what if there's a flood? And what if the water rises all the way up to the floor and goes, what if there's a flood? And so, what? It was that beaming presence. And I kept trying to make it scarier and scarier. Oh yeah? Well, what about this? What if my world comes to an end? And when nobody knows I'm out here and they can't hear me up on land yelling for help. And so, what does that mean? And I kept making it scary and scarier until I ran out of stuff to say, and then I got tickled and started laughing on the back of the houseboat all by myself. Because that's what we human beings have done. We've made it so scary. We've made it so scary. And we have talked ourselves into believing some really scary things. And sometimes we forget that we're surrounded by heaven and earth. We're being applauded and encouraged and held in love. And we have everything we need, even in the wild places. That's where we have our epiphanies, that we are eternal spiritual beings, and it really doesn't matter what happens in this third dimensional place. That doesn't affect my eternal spiritual well-being and eternal spiritual consciousness. That's who I am, and that's what we're birthing onto the planet. You see, the old story is, get what you can, get as much as you can before you leave. Or be as scared as you can. You really need to experience how scary it can be. What is it? There's only, what is it, 2 certainties, death and taxes? Is that what they say? Who are they anyway? This is the realness of who we are. Right here. The deep listening, and in the wild places we have our epiphanies. We have our insights. We have our visions. We have our inner knowing. We have the blessed awareness that there is more to us than simply 3-dimensional being. We are multi-dimensional. We are multi-dimensional. There are parts of us in the heavenly awareness right now as we're sitting in these chairs thinking about lunch. There is awareness of heavenly truths, transcendent truths. There are parts of us connected with that, and they always are. They always behold the face of the highest consciousness. They always behold the awareness of the highest consciousness. There are parts of us that are always, as we used to say, in the throne room, even as we're walking around paying our taxes and buying the groceries. Hard to believe sometimes, isn't it? These are the kinds of epiphanies that we have in the wild places. And in the unknown, there's enormous possibilities. But sometimes we approach the unknown, I don't know, about going into the unknown. But that's what Jesus did. That's what every Greek mystic has done. They've gone into the unknown. That's where the enormous possibilities rest. And where are those enormous possibilities? 1,000,000 miles out, turn left at the first galaxy, and no, the enormous possibilities are where?
Inside.
And the uncharted territories, creativity, the places where we have thoughts. Are you finding that you're having thoughts lately? Wow, I never had that thought before. Wow, I never had that feeling before. Wow, I never had that knowing before, that awareness before, that insight before. Where did that come from? How did that happen? After all these years and all those books and all those classes and all those workshops, never had that thought before. How does that happen? Because we give ourselves over to the desert and the wild places and the unknown and the uncharted territories within us. I love thinking about the space program and going to other planets. I think that's just extremely exciting. But what's more exciting is the exploration of the uncharted territories within me.
Mm.
My Father's house has what?
Many mansions.
Many mansions, many dimensions, many levels of understanding and insight and awareness. And we only get to explore that by going to some of these places. So I want to read to you something that one of my mentors, Matthew Fox, has to say. He wrote this wonderful book. You know, I went to see him recently in Charleston. And I think I may have told you this. If it's a repeat, please forgive me. I showed him my book. You see, it's falling apart. Look at that. The Coming of the Cosmic Christ. I got it when it was new, about 25 years ago. And I showed him the book to get him to sign it, which he did. And he took the longest time. He was silent, just looking through it. My first thought was, oh, he thinks I don't take good care of my books. I mean, you know, I underline, I dog ear, I highlight. It's like a little Bible for me. And then he looked up and he had tears in his eyes. I thought, oh God, I really disrespected him. And he said, do you know what it means to an author to see their book so lovingly used?
Wow.
I said, I've had that book with me at so many podiums, at so many Unity churches. That was a sweet moment.
Mm.
So this is what he says. He says that we must have a metanoia in the collective. It has to happen. We have to have a change of heart. We have to have the awakening heart because, he said, entering the darkness of mysticism is the healing balm for the darkness of the world right now. So entering the heart as the mystic, to have a true change of heart, metanoia. And then he talked about the prophet Joel. And you know the prophet Joel does that wonderful, wonderful piece of scripture. And it's said to be looking ahead to the day of Pentecost when Jesus went to his disciples and told them to wait for a special blessing. But Joel was writing a long, long time before Jesus talked about this. But here's what Joel says. He says, in that day, I will pour out my spirit on all humankind. And your sons and your daughters will prophesy. Your old folks will dream dreams. And your young ones will see visions. And even on the slaves, men and women, will I pour out my spirit in those days. And then he goes on to talk about some things that are happening in our world right now. Some of the hard and painful things that are happening in our world. And then he ends, again, with the high note when he says, when that day comes, the mountains will run with new wine, and the hills flow with milk, and all the riverbeds of Judah will run with water. A blessing so great that we will not be able to contain it. But what Matthew Fox and many other mystics have said is, in order to reach this place that the prophet Joel talked about, we have to give ourselves over to entering into the deepness of our own hearts. And then Matthew Fox goes on to say this: I call to the people of my planet Earth for penance and repentance, meaning to turn again to the Spirit within, to have a change of heart, to make all things new. And the newness I yearn for the most, this is Matthew Fox 25 years ago, the newness I yearn for the most is the newness in the churches themselves. For this to happen, the churches must confess their sins, beg forgiveness, be emptied, let go, and begin anew with the new but very ancient paradigm of the cosmic Christ. He says, the cosmic Christ is deeply ecumenical, touching every religion of the world. It is the pattern that connects. It's the pattern of divine love and justice that all creatures and all humans are yearning for. So why am I bringing this up today? Because in 2015, I want us to explore ourselves as the mystics of the world who are bringing forth a newness even within the church, even within the traditional paradigm, that we allow ourselves to birth this transcendent consciousness that we call Christ consciousness, that we know ourselves as mystics, that we know ourselves as doing all that Jesus did and greater, and we listen deeply to the call that takes us toward what Jesus went toward, which was the baptism. Jesus went into the wild places, and he found the most wild person, John the Baptist, to bless him. As we said last week, Jesus did not go to the Pharisees or the Sadducees. He didn't go to the holy fathers of the temple to receive the blessing that would take him into the deep expression of his ministry. He went to one who would bless him with an enormous amount of chutzpah. How many of us know we need some chutzpah to be in the world right now? That's in the Bible too. So in the baptism, as you remember the story, Jesus went to John the Baptist and he received the baptism by water. And something happened in him. Because when he left that place, his entire ministry unfolded. So why would we want to give ourselves over to a baptism of spirit? Why would we want to take ourselves into the deep places of deep listening? Why would we want to do that? Have I lost my mind? Because it matches what our world is most yearning for right now. Peace, 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 peace. Our world is most yearning for peace. And the second coming is coming through you and me. The second coming, the Christ consciousness, the awareness and presence of love. It's coming through you and me. Who did we think it was going to come through? So this is the season. We have our nativity scenes. We celebrate the birth of baby Jesus. But I I'm not celebrating the birth of baby Jesus anymore. I'm celebrating the birth of the full-blown consciousness of the divine in the world.
Amen.
And it's not in a baby. It's in full-grown sons and daughters of the one present, the one power.
Yes.
And it appears to me that these kinds of little churches are the places where it's most invited to happen right now. I don't think it's always going to be that way. Right now, that's the way it is. Somebody asked me the other day, said, well, how big is that church over there? I said, it's huge. The consciousness is huge. So when you're opening your gifts this season, when you're giving your gifts this season, are we willing to know ourselves as the primary gift, as the one presence in the world expressing through us? The divine expressing through us. That's the gift we're celebrating. So touch your own heart right now. Close your eyes if it feels good for you. And if this feels true for you, then please repeat after me. The story of Jesus is my story too.
The story of Jesus is my story too.
What's being born in me is the same Spirit.
Being born in me is the same Spirit
as was in Jesus Christ.
as was in Jesus Christ.
I am.
I am.
In this now moment.
In this now moment.
With this voice.
With this voice.
And with this heart.
And with this heart.
Bringing heaven.
Bringing heaven.
To bless earth.
To bless earth.
I salute you as the Christ in the world. Namaste. Namaste. So what we're going to do, y'all, is a little different. We're going to receive the offering with a wonderful song, and then we're going to make our circle with our candles, and I'll explain to you more how that's going to work in a moment. We're going to say our offering blessing. Say it like you mean it. We do it with the mudra. I am light, flowing through me, blessing these gifts to radiate peace. Joy to the world. that come in the form of checks and money and volunteer service and talents. Oh my goodness, the talent in this church is just so fabulous. Right now we want to take a deep breath and we want to say this prayer for protection for ourselves, for our loved ones, for all those we're holding in our hearts, and for our global family. Let's say this together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Okay, y'all, in a moment, I'm going to ask them to dim the lights, and we're going to light our candles for peace. And if you didn't get a candle, would you please raise your hand, and Kate will bring one around to you. The way this is going to work is David Hiller is going to stand over here. Kate is going to stand Lesta Sue is going to stand right here. And Lloyd is going to stand over here. And Kate is going to stand back here. And I'm going to ask the four of you to please come forward now and light your candles from one of these that are lit already. So in a moment, our wonderful Unity Band is going to begin to sing and play softly, Let There Be Peace. It's the song we close our service with every Sunday. And sometimes we say words or sing songs so much that the words begin to lose their meaning. So today I'm going to ask each one of us as we sing our peace song, that as we feel guided, that you go to one of the candle holders that already have their candles lit, and you light your candle and you take your place in the circle. And when you take your place in the circle, I'm going to ask that you ponder in your heart your calling, your awareness of who you are and why you're here. Your calling to be the presence of the Christ, of peace, of love in the world. And what does that look like? And what does that feel like? What does it feel like to be the Christ in the world? As you take your place in the circle, that we become a circle of prayerful consciousness, that it is possible to be peace in the world. It is possible to be a presence of love in the world. It is possible even now when things happen that break our hearts. It's possible to be peace. And as we do this, that it become our prayer for our world, our brothers and sisters in the streets out protesting right now, our brothers and sisters who are in slavery in one form or another, our brothers and sisters who are picking up guns or laying down guns, our brothers and sisters who are leaders of mighty nations and leaders of little villages all across this world, leaders of communities. We bless the children and the parents and the grandparents. We bless ourselves, our global human family, and all life on the planet. So you see our little peace song just got a whole lot bigger. So we won't necessarily get up en masse, but as you feel guided to get up and go to the candle lighter in one of these places around the sanctuary and take your place in the circle with your light, your calling, your commitment to deeper consciousness and awakening. Okay, thank you, music team, for playing this softly. Let's have the lights dim, please. As you feel guided.
Peace on earth,
We all take a deep breath and we look around this circle at each beautiful beloved who has made another kind of commitment to be the light in the world, to be the presence of love in the world, to be the presence of forgiveness, acceptance. If you're looking for healers and teachers and visionaries, people to stand with you and hold consciousness with you as you move through your desert places, your places of unknown territory, this is one of the circles that you can look to ask people to stand with you in prayer, ask people to know that you are the light of the world even when you forget. What does it feel like to be the Christ in the world? What does it feel like to birth the awakened consciousness into the world? This is who we are, and this is who we've come to be. We bless our brothers and sisters all over this planet, yearning and reaching for the highest decisions, the highest ways to be peace in the world, and for those who've forgotten that they are the light, we shine our light even more brightly until they remember. Someone shone their light for you to wake up. We bless all of our beloved teachers, mentors, guides, and teachers. And today we also say, blessed birthday time to the Christ in the world. If it feels true for you, please hold your light up and say, I am the light of the world.
I am the light of the world.
And so it is, and so we let it be. Namaste.
Namaste.
Blessed day to everyone. Namaste. Now turn and find somebody to hug. Tell them that they're the light of the world. And when you blow the light out, say happy birthday to yourself. And you can deposit your candles back here in the basket, y'all, so we recycle them.